Welcome to this video, welcome to this video, and it's for round 3 of the time memorial. Let's check out the games, and I'll start with Mamedyarov against Kramnik. Yeah, Kramnik started with 0 points out of 2 games. It's probably never happened to him before in his recent memory, maybe as a kid, but never before. And he's playing against Mamedyarov, who had a good start with 1.5 points. Let's see what happened. We get a Nimzo with Queen C2, and Kramnik, for quite a long while already, is the main practitioner of this line with castles and d5. This is one of the most interesting ways for black to play against this. The idea is with castles and d5 to simply play for maximum development. One absolutely key point is that after c takes d5 in this position, black plays knight e4. He doesn't recapture. The idea is that here knight e4, queen c2, ed5 allows a quick further development with bishop f5, c5, knight c6. It's very aggressive. So white very rarely nowadays takes on d5. This is the absolute main line, and maybe Kramnik here put a move forward in this position which hasn't been seen so often. He plays now queen d7. In fact, he had some years ago already played this position more than once. And against Carlsen, for example, he had played c5, which ended in a draw. And queen d7 is an interesting alternative. Queen c2 and c5. This is black's idea. He doesn't really care about any double pawns here. He wants to open up the position as soon as possible. The main issue for white is that his king is still in the middle, and it takes 2 moves, at least 2 moves, to get castled. So black wants to be really quick. c5 takes, rook c8, intending to take with the rook. And this initiates a forced sequence now. Bishop f6 takes, queen e4. So Mamedyarov is really testing this piece of preparation, attacking the rook. Yeah, black now in fact has got more than one interesting move. What Kramnik played is queen b5, sacrificing this rook. And yeah, it's is it a sacrifice? Let's check. Mamedyarov didn't take the rook, but we can look at this. Black then simply takes on b2. And yeah, now the rook is hanging, and there's only one square. You can only go here. After this, black can play knight c6, and this way catch the queen. The only continuation is something like this. And here at the end, the a pawn is the problem. White has no way to save this pawn, leaving black with probably winning endgame. So return, you cannot really take the rook. So what should white do? He played b4. This is a forced move. The idea is to play e3, and we see that this was the intention. Now attacking the queen. And yeah, the queen just retreated. If we look at this position, b4 takes. If white now takes on a8, there's again knight c6, or even this move is really dangerous. Yeah, in fact, Mamedyarov doesn't really need to calculate this. To be honest, Kramnik was still clearly in his preparation, more time than he started the game with. So after queen b7 here, he gave the check. And the thing is also, white needs to be cautious. If you play, let's say, let's say you would take here and take here. see, after this, you need to be really cautious because black is better developed, and it might happen that in a position which is fairly symmetrical, black is just the one tempo ahead to get on the second rank, and then you're in trouble. So white needs to be cautious.
Check.
Here gave this check and then played b5. Yeah, quite logical, trapping this bishop. So black is forced to take it. Rook b1, this was the idea. Threatening to win the bishop. a6, a4, this is pretty much forced. And now f5, attacking the queen. Queen needs to move. And queen e4, all Kramnik's prep. Queen is attacking the rook and offers the straight. So the rook is hanging, and white basically has no way to continue the game. He played queen h6, king e7, queen g5, and we got a draw by repetition. Is there something else? Queen e4. Yeah, white could have taken. Something like this. Black can also just grab here. Oh, that's knight g5. I'm sorry. Of course, you need to get it back. Overlook that. Need to take the piece first. Yeah, let's say here. Rook d8 takes. Knight c6. The problem is that you will probably not keep this pawn. And if you don't keep the pawn, you're just worse. White simply has no big idea to continue the game, and I really understand the decision to make the draw, considering that it's all Kramnik's preparation. Obviously, he didn't spend. He's back on 1 hour 40 and finished the game with more time on the clock. Here he actually took a while, maybe trying to figure out if you can play for a win. King e8, maybe king e8, just check it. But white can take.
Check.
Castle. Yeah, black king is very very endangered. Say you take here, queen h7, queen h8. Yeah, cannot do that. Yeah, so very short draw, which probably was all prepared by Kramnik. I think he was glad to have such a non-game and get into the rest day after those 2 losses. Okay, next game, Gelfand, Andreikin. We got d4, e6, c4, bishop b4 check. Yeah, this is sometimes called the Carlsen defense. The great player of the, yeah, it's hard to tell. I wanted to say of the 50s, 60s, but he also won this classic Avro tournament in the 30s even. So Paul Carlsen is one of the all-time greats, one of the best players never to become world champion, and he sometimes is the namesake for this variation with bishop b4 check. It's very similar to the Bogo Indian, of course, but it got some subtle points. A very good opening, actually. I think this would be immensely popular if it wasn't for the fact that here e4 is the best move, transposing into a French defense. And yeah, while the French is a good opening, it's probably still better than for white in comparison than this. Okay, it's not like white is in trouble, but it's simply quite okay for black. Knight c3 is nicely answered by b6 or c5. Both are quite good. Bishop, knight d2 we see in the game, and bishop d2. Black has multiple ideas. He can play a5, which is interesting, or he can just take and play for a very simplified position. Okay, knight d2 played by Gelfand. He very often plays this against the Bogo. And c5. I'm sorry, c5. Yeah, this attacks the center, and we see that white immediately gets the bishops. But the thing is, queen is not so great on d2, obviously. Problem is, not much choice. If you take with the bishop, then black may even protected with e5. You won't get the pawn back. So this is why white misplaces his queen a bit. And black actually opens up the position against the bishops. This sounds maybe a bit strange to some, but it's quite often is this strategy of opening up the position against bishops is in fact the right one. It's just a matter of the concrete position. Here the issue is if you give white time, he's lagging in development. If you give white time, then he will catch up with bishop e2, b4, bishop b2, and so on. Like b4, bishop b2, bishop e2, castles. He's got two bishops and just a great position. If you give white time, he will be much better. So you need to, let's say, strike while the iron is hot and open up the position for your knights. And we see that here, yeah, knight b5 is a debatable move, but black is quickly developing. Rook d8, knight c6, b6, bishop b7. So quickly getting the pieces out. And the queen here also helps to prevent easy development. Yeah, knight b5 is interesting, attacking or threatening knight to c7. And black's only got this answer. f3 and e4, this was white's idea. But to see e5, e4, bishop e6. Black has got very good development. And bishop b3 is an interesting move. It's not helping the development, but controlling a very important square. If you imagine that in the future a rook wants to use the d-file, then bishop b3 is rather a problem for that idea. Yeah, black's got no problems whatsoever. Rook d8. And now white try to get rid of this bishop. It's very hard to not play bishop d1. Yeah, black's quicker on the d-file. And after this, we had a repetition. Yeah, very short game, 23 moves. The problem is that I think both sides have slight problems to not make it, this repetition. If anybody, black maybe could do something. Gelfand also down to 20 minutes. He really spent time to try to avoid this waste of the white pieces. It's really a bit of a waste if you give up the slight edge of the first move so quickly. Yeah, this is a rather good opening for black, really. I really believe it's not any worse compared to let's say the Nimzo, for instance. The only issue is the French defense with 2 e4, but Gelfand doesn't play 1 e4, so it's unlikely that he would play e4 here to get to the French. Yeah, correct, I think, draw. Let's check Nakamura against Karjakin next. And we got a Grunfeld. Very surprising choice. Karjakin is actually one of the players with a very narrow opening repertoire. He usually against d4 plays the Nimzo and the Queen's Indian. And I cannot really recall him playing the Grunfeld. Maybe he's experimenting with some new openings, but the Grunfeld is really surprising. Yeah, Nakamura playing a sideline with bishop d2. Also played this rather quickly. And we get
check.
This kind of position, which is still a fairly typical one for the Grunfeld. Castles, e6, everything's rather standard. Knight d7, and we got this straight. Yeah, and this is really interesting pawn structure. My first reaction to this was, isn't this rather uninspiring for white? What exactly is white's idea here. The thing, or the idea that immediately comes to mind is, okay, black will get this knight to d6 and will even be better, blocking the pawn, protecting b7, preparing something to e8. The knight on d6 is what you want to do. Yeah, the only issue is you won't ever get there. It's simply tricky for black to get in this maneuver, and if you don't manage to get the knight to d6, it is not easy to play this position. In fact, the problem is, or the fact is, we are now on move 15, and 5 moves later or 6 moves later, Karjakin is really in trouble. Very quickly he's in trouble. But I cannot really believe that this position should already be a big advantage for white. Black should have some sort of defense, certainly, to get a playable position. I'm not sure, however, what the most precise way to play it should be. What he's playing actually is knight to e5. I don't really think this is helping, but I'm not sure. Maybe queen f6. This is a move that came to my mind, attacking the pawn, still allowing the queen there. Something like rook b1 or queen b3, rook b8, a4, something like this, rook e8. This also looks slightly better for white, but it doesn't really look fatal. If white plays something like this, for instance, black has more than one idea. Can even go here, maybe intending to play c4. The problem is, in the game it really gets ugly quickly, so there somewhere around here there must be an improvement. I actually think maybe white is somewhat better anyway, but you should try to improve on the next couple of moves. After this and queen d6, the problem is this knight, it's not really a stable piece. White has this f4 ideas, and the knight on e5, I mean, how do you get to d6 now? It's rather difficult. The additional problem is, what are you doing after rook b1? You don't really want to play rook b8, but you probably need to. And he didn't. He played b6, and this actually, I think, is the point where black has real trouble and problems to stay in the game. Rook e1. And now I played rook to d8. I was also examining f5, which is of course a risky move, simply exposing the e6 square. But at least it is an active move. Maybe bishop to b5, looking at the e8 square. f4, queen d2, just a possible line. Intending rook e4. Oh, not this one. Rook e4. The problem is that this is not a stable piece on e5. Rook e8 also is prevented all the time, so you cannot connect it or protect it with rook e8. And something like, let's say, f3 is not really helping much. Even a move like queen e3 is quite good. Yeah, it's already somewhat tricky. He played rook d8, and this is met by a very strong reply. Bishop to a6. Yeah, and now of course black cannot take on d5. Yeah, bishop a6, rook b8, and c4. And now the problem is, we can add one more move, bishop to b5. The problem is that this bishop is always controlling e8, and black simply has no chance to get on the e-file. If you try this now, just for argument's sake,
check.
There's this one, winning the pawn. as the knight is saying, and it's a pin. So this is forced, and this is winning for white. We will even have excellent chances to win the b6 pawn. Knight to f6 and queen e2. This is the problem. Controlling the open file, the only open file, is something. The black still cannot get the knight to d6. It's impossible. Even with the knight on d6, it wouldn't be great anymore, but it would be rather helpful. Yeah, what is black supposed to do? He played rook b7. Hard to give him advice. If you play a nothing move, then there's more than one good idea. White can even try to play a4, a5 first. It's excellent simply for white. Also queen e7 is keeping a very nice edge, attacking the pawn. Yeah, it's simply horrible for black. And I really cannot believe, if you go back like 4 or 5 moves, that it was such a terrible position. Yeah, I think around here there must be some improvement. Queen f6, I don't know, but it's clear that this is really terrible. And I think with excellent technical play, white should probably even win this. And Nakamura did a pretty good job here. Rook b3 and rook e3, they're very nice, not difficult, but a good maneuver, doubling on the e-file. And black is trying to find some sort of role for this knight, but you see that this a very powerful move. It wasn't strictly necessary, but it is very good. Simply controls all those squares, and this is simply a set knight. It cannot go to e8, of course, simply getting lost. And black is like really in a straitjacket. You cannot get out of this. He tried for f5 for some activity, but of course this weakens the king as well. Yeah, Nakamura plays a really good game here, keeping everything under control. Yeah, now the queens are off, but even the end game is terrible. Yeah, it's no defense really. 98 is something that black could have tried, but look at this. Yeah, what is black supposed to do now? White has got two possible, or not possible is wrong, potential pass pawns, while those three, no, those 3 pawns are blocked by 2 pawns. And if black goes for h5, there's f5, the immediate move. This is too much, those pawns are too far apart. So 98 is not possible, so he goes h5, and now very instructive, just f3, keeping the pawn on g4, which dominates the knight. The knight has no square, it can only go to e8, and yeah, well, we saw what happens with 98. So black's play is very limited here. He played g5, and white is just making small progress. Now there's d67, bishop to d5, and rook e7. This kind of ideas are in the position. Black is probably lost, and he's been lost for a while already. Yeah, this h4 is a slight mistake, but black is in terrible shape anyway. H4 is a small mistake, and it's a mistake because after this here, white has a forced win, and we see Nakamura playing this. He first repeats the position a bit, then goes for this, and this is very strong and winning the game. You need a second pass pawn, and this way you get it. Black cannot take here, of course. Rook e8, and it's a girl. So what is black supposed to do? Yeah, that can only take.
Check.
And then g5. This is the big idea. If black now takes, there's this funny move. Very nice, huh? And threatening the promotion. And if black takes,
Check.
oops, this is also winning easily. Yeah, so king g6, and now this idea, it's just too much. Very nicely played by Nakamura. These two pawns simply decide the day. Black has no way to get out of this. He's running into some kind of Zugzwang. White is just picking up the pawns now. No way for black to defend. Yeah, very nice game by Nakamura, who is actually now on +1. Huh? It's such a difficult and tricky situation sometimes in those tournaments. Look, Nakamura played a horrible game in round 1 and lost with white against Mamedyarov in 20-something moves. Then he was completely busted against Kramnik and should have been on 0 out of 2. In fact, Kramnik played this badly and lost even, so Nakamura won against Kramnik and now won again against Karjakin with a very good game. And now he's in the lead. Not alone in the lead, but he's in the lead, +1. And fighting for the tournament victory. Winning 2 games in a row after this loss in round 1. Okay, next game. Let's go to Anand against Morozevich. And we got a Rui Lopez. Morozevich lately is employing the Rui rather often. He's always been a French player and some other openings, but the Rui, okay, he also played e5 all his life, but lately he's playing this more often. Okay, we got a Zaitsev variation, this old favorite of Karpov's. White now has a wide range of ideas. You can play d5 or a4 or possible lines, or a3, which is also a known line. h6, bishop a2. Yeah, this a3, bishop a2 is designed to keep this bishop on this attractive diagonal. Yeah, now black went for knight b8. This is of course a maneuver known from the Breyer variation, knight b8 to d7, getting to a nice regrouping. Queen b3, it's a funny move by Anand. The idea is, okay, simply capturing on f7, and how is black supposed to cover it? If you play rook e7, there's this idea. And on queen e7, yeah, or maybe even this one. Queen e7 looks really ugly. Queen d7 is what Moro played, so it's fine. It's blocking this knight, but you have time enough to correct this. Queen was also not good on b3. It was threatening, but otherwise queen b3 is not really a good square. So we get a pretty typical Rui Lopez position here. White is attacking black's advanced pawn. This is strong. You cannot keep it there or allow it to stay there for very long if black's got time. So white would play some 0 moves, then black gets to this with an excellent position. So he opens it up. This is correct. And now playing on the queen side, a4 and c4. These are the moves. So very logical play by Anand. He's the one in this game with the advantage on the queen side, mostly due to the somewhat ugly bishop on b7. The bishop on b7 is not really structurally bad, if you look at these pawns, but it's just badly placed here. And in fact, even if this is a good bishop, you would rather prefer to not have it exchanged somewhere. Okay, it's not like black is in terrible shape. I'm only saying that this b7 bishop is a bit of a problem. Okay, black is playing b4, intending this, and of course intending a5. If white now plays a nothing move, don't know, again this, then a5 leads to an absolute big advantage for black. Knight here, the queen side is closed, and it's terrible. Black's got the protected passer here. So a5, this is the way to go. And yeah, this sort of isolates the b4 pawn, which really doesn't have a big natural cover from one of the pieces. And the game now evolves around this. Yeah, Moro regrouped so that the rook is actually protecting the b4 pawn, but it's still a weakness, and Anand is quick to get his rooks on the attack. Here now he took even. Yeah, here it's difficult for white to improve. Black is threatening knight to c5 to get rid of this, and so he just took. Yeah, bishop a3, and this rook move was quite good. So how to assess this position? I think it's probably about equal. This is a slight weakness on d6, but black's got the a pawn. I think it's really quite correct game up to this point, and in fact it is for a couple of more moves that are all fairly logical. Yeah, rook to a8 does surprise me a bit, but okay, the rook is supporting the pawn. And what exactly is white's big idea here? He played knight e1. This is a good move. The idea is knight to d3 and then c4, c5, or supporting c4, c5. Not clear if you can play it so quickly. Yeah, played this, and now in order to make any progress, white needs to chop this off. And queen c1. Yeah, now in this position, knight d7. This is rather logical move. And Anand played rook a3, queen back, and bishop a4. Yeah, and here Moro played bishop g5. Logical, attacking this knight and pinning it. So this rather structurally bad bishop plays a useful role on g5. Bishop c6, rook must move, queen c2, getting out of this. Yeah, and here is an interesting point. Here Morozevich had a rather simple move in comparison to what he played that I think would have given him very decent play. This is just knight f6. The idea is just to take and take e4. And in fact, this is surprisingly difficult to meet. The only move that really prevents this idea is f3. And f3 is really ugly, allowing this check. Something like this. It's hard to assess, but like should be okay. I cannot really believe in this, that you can put everything on light squares with this black bishop still on the board. It is very complicated. White can try c5, for example. But yeah, knight f6 here was an interesting alternative. What he played wasn't terrible or anything. It was just rather risky. Let's see what happened. He played f5, immediately attacking with the pawn the center. This is actually okay, but it's very complicated. It takes knight f6. This was the idea, freeing the bishop and getting the pawn back with a big pin if you are allowed to. And white, in order to play for something, must play sharply, and Vishy did that. He just played g4 and protected the f5 pawn. Yeah, e4 now. Knight to e1 back, and queen e7. This was Morozevich's idea. He sacrificed his pawn, but he's got a strong bishop. This is really weak, and he's got the pawn here with advancing ideas. while this bishop on c6 is a bit offside. So it's clear that this isn't a clear-cut pawn for white. Black certainly has some compensation. And in fact, if you continue a couple of moves, this is all fairly logical. Played e3. This is a mistake actually, and I think a very serious one. Instead of this here, black should go h5. And in fact, this is quite okay for him. Let's say rook b3, can exchange. And then take here, giving black a quite good counterplay. White cannot really play this, as you can even answer with this move.
Check.
And what now? The knight moves. There's this very strong idea. And white is really busted here, amazingly. No way to defend it. Absolutely no way. Yeah, quite amazing. But okay, you don't really need to calculate all this. It's just that instead of this, h5 is fairly normal looking move. He probably miscalculated something. He played e3, and after takes, continued bishop h4. There certainly was some tactical idea that simply failed here. White needs to play some passive moves, but it really keeps everything together. And what now? Maybe here h5 again was some idea, getting some sort of play going. In the game we played knight e4, and after queen e3 it's starting to be rather easy actually. Knight g5 is a neat little trick. For white takes now, there's this and this, and it's not so clear. But just king g2 is strong, ignoring all this. Black grabbed here now. You can exchange queens, but it's yeah, it's a pawn, and this c6 bishop, while being on a somewhat strange place, it also covers a4, so this pawn is not in any danger, and black is simply badly coordinated. This f4, this bishop is especially bad. White is simply winning. Yeah, he played queen c4, but this isn't really helping.
Check.
Well, hangs. All pieces are hanging. Yeah, black is simply not coordinated. And after a couple of additional moves,
check.
Yeah, black gave away one piece here to continue for a couple of moves, but it simply lost.
Check.
Moro could have resigned earlier actually. And here, this is protected, and white simply intends to do something like this and wins very easily. So yeah, good game by Rigi. Not really, you cannot blame him for any sort of mistake, and it probably should have been a draw if Morozevich would have defended correctly right before the time control, playing the most accurate moves after f5, or simply avoiding f5. In any way, at any rate, a good win by Anand. Okay, let's go to the final game, Carlsen Caruana. Yeah, a really slow opening, kind of a ratty reversed King's Indian setup. Yeah, I know a bit about this opening. I play this kind of stuff myself quite often, and it has some bite to it, but let's see. Caruana plays one of the most popular responses, and this prepares the development of the bishop and anticipates a white c4 move, of course. Carlsen now castled, which is quite normal, of course. Here there also is the move c4, which is actually what I usually play in this position. The idea of this move is that now the bishop development to g4 that is seen in the game as well can be answered by knight e5, and this actually leads to some edge for white. It's not like a dramatic one, but white is somewhat better. The drawback of c4 is that black can simply take the pawn, and this is a rather unclear pawn sacrifice. It's really not so obvious what the best continuation after this is. You can even play here. It's queen c2, and there's castles. I usually castle, but the other moves are interesting as well. Yeah, but Carlsen didn't play that. This, as mentioned, avoids the line of the game. Castles, bishop g4, and now he played c4, e6, and here cd5. The idea of cd5 is that after ed5, the arising structure with d3 and e4 is quite interesting for white, leading to an asymmetrical and quite complicated middle game. The drawback of cd5, however, is that what Caruana played, you can take, bishop takes, and cd5, and this actually is exactly the line that made me reconsider the move order with castles and c4, simply because this is some problem for white. I mean, if you play this opening just to get a completely solid position and make a draw or anything, then this is not much of a problem, but white cannot hope for any advantage here. It's simply too solid. I mean, Carlsen played knight c3, knight c6, d4. Yeah, you can play d4. This is also d3. This is what I usually tried. And now then bishop e7, castles, queen here, rook c8. It's completely difficult for white to do anything. Black is so solid. He's got all pieces out, no bad piece. And what exactly is white's plan? In the game, d4 and e3 was played. This is similar to the game Kramnik against Aronian from the candidates, where Kramnik got a nice edge and should have won. But he missed the win later. Carlsen has even spent some time here, surprisingly. Yeah, many things have been said about his openings. This is certainly not one of the most aggressive setups. So we even have the bishops traded, and rook c8, rook c1, knight e7. Yeah. And what about this position? Isn't this completely equal? Yeah, in fact it is. If you ask me, I would actually rather prefer black already. It's not an edge, but the problem is, what are you exactly doing with this bishop? It's a completely symmetrical position, and this bishop wants an open position. It's not easy to open it up. Move like e4 leads to an isolated pawn. Black can easily improve pieces. Knight to d6 is one of them. And he has got no problems at all. Yeah. Knight a4. Knight d7. Yeah, and now Carlsen goes for something really curious. Probably he misjudged some continuation. I'm not really sure what exactly. He played knight c5 after a couple of minutes, and this of course looks strange, because black can take this pawn, which he did. Of course he took it, and probably around here there must have been some miscalculation. I don't really know. b4 of course, and rook b5. I mean, he cannot really have overlooked this one, right? I actually think that he maybe saw this position, and after a3, queen back, he believed that he could do something against this rook, which is, of course, in a slightly awkward position. Can only go here. But okay, it can go to b6 and probably to d6 and back, and well, black is a pawn up. And what exactly is white's compensation? In fact, if you check this position with the computer, it gives black a solid edge here. It's a pawn with very little compensation for white. Yeah, probably instead of this ambitious move knight c5, he should have played some dull continuation to make a draw. In the game, oops, this was a bit too quick. Queen d8. In the game here, he tried e4 to simplify the position and open up this bishop so that it actually does something. a5 takes, rook c5. Yeah, what white is actually dreaming of is to exchange some pieces to rook endgame, which you can draw. And in fact, after a couple of further exchanges, we get an endgame with queen and rook, where the queen here is blocking the pawn, attacking b6, and I think white has rather reasonable drawing chances here. He's still active, but still, isn't this very weird? Why did he go knight c5? I really don't understand. It's not it's avoiding a draw, of course, but it's just getting into trouble. There must have been some sort of miscalculation. Okay, we continue a couple of moves. It's all quite solid. Ah yeah, rook e4. Black agrees to the rook endgame. Yeah, what else? If you don't go, you can play something like this, but how do you make any progress here with those two pawns under pressure all the time? So he went to the rook endgame. I think this is correct. And it's an extra pawn. White plays the typical move h4, preventing g5 by black, and setting up the pawns in a way that you can exchange as many pawns as possible. Yeah, how to assess this? Of course, it should be a draw. Can put this on the board. White controls the 7th rank. The pawn cannot move, so everything's pointing towards the draw. But let's see what happens. Yeah, f4. White wants to exchange as many pawns as possible, and manages to. This is quite normal. Black, of course, needs to keep some material on the board. If you, for example, take here, then it's just not enough. You don't have enough material left now. This rook is always somehow tied to the b pawn. What he played was much better, keeping at least the h pawn on the board, and after takes, playing h5. This preserves a little bit of something to try for, but it's still not great.
Check.
Yeah, black has regrouped. Now he's in front of the pawn, but in front of the pawn isn't exactly great as well. After a couple more moves,
Check.
where pretty much nothing happened,
Check.
we came to this position, and it seems that here there's only one move, and this move is also quite simple. This move, I think, still retains a very decent drawing chance. He should just go back to b8, and this is based on the not on the fact that this is so great, this move. The thing is, you simply don't have any other one. He played another one, rook f8, but this seems to fail, and because of a forced line, black now can take.
Check.
Rook takes, king g6.
Check.
Rook, yeah, check. What else? King and rook f6. And in fact, this is a lost endgame because the king is caught caught off. And you can check it with the table base if you like. It's a forced win. And Caruana is playing it perfectly. Absolutely perfectly now. At one or two stages he only had one move to win, but he managed. The main issue is that White's king cannot help. You always have those blocking moves.
Check.
Black pushes the pawn, and rook e4 is important to shield the king, and now you simply promote.
Check.
And here Carlsen resigned after king g4. There's king g2 and promotes. No way to stop it. So Carlsen lost here with White. Rather weird game. He lost one rook endgame again, which he should have drawn. I mean, he really had some a couple. Let's rephrase. He for many months before the candidates he hadn't lost a game and defended all those worst positions to a draw, and now against Ivanchuk in the candidates and again here he lost one of those end games. Yeah, quite surprising. He also lost against Wang Hao, this kind of end game, which he should have drawn. Yeah, but it was a weird game anyway, really. What was knight c5? This knight c5 idea? This is really strange. Would be interesting. I didn't have any time today to check the press conference, and it would be interesting to learn what the idea was behind this this move. Maybe it was really a very simple miscalculation. So this means Carlsen is back on 50%, and Caruana is in the hunt with this win. Yeah, this was the third round of the Time Memorial from Moscow, and tomorrow is a rest day. They have rest days after 3 rounds, and one rest day, not rest days. So I'll be back on Monday with further coverage from this interesting tournament. Thanks for watching.